Did you know that millions of people die from preventable infectious diseases? With modern day medicine, this should not be happening, but unfortunately it is. Bottom line is vaccines save lives, period. Being in the medical field since I was 16, I have seen too many deaths which could have been prevented by a single vaccination. The flu has been the most deadly in my experience. Today I will define what a vaccine is, how they are made, reasons to support vaccines, specific vaccines and the decline and deaths associated with them, and the belief that vaccines cause autism. First, what is a vaccine? The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as the CDC, defines a vaccine as a product that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, thus protecting the person from that disease. Vaccines are usually administered through needle injections, but can also be administered by mouth or sprayed into the nose. Vaccines are made by 5 steps as described by the historyofvaccines.org website. First step is to generate an antigen, which is used to induce an immune response. The next step is to release the antigen containing as much of the virus or bacteria as possible. The third step is to purify the antigen. The fourth step is to add an adjunct material to enhance the immune response. Lastly, the steps combine all the components that make up the final vaccine and mix them into a single vessel. Then the vaccine is filled into a vial or syringe and sealed using a sterile technique. Sounds simple, huh? Now let's talk about the reasons that vaccines save lives, specific vaccines, and the statistics associated with them. Did you know that immunizations are given to children as recommended? There are 12 diseases that they are immune against by the age of 2. Some of them listed by the CDC are hepatitis B, measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, and tetanus. The measles outbreaks could have been prevented. An article written in the Washington Post in October of 2017 by Lena Sun claims that people who do not get vaccinated are most likely the reason for steady increase in the rate of measles and the major outbreaks in the United States. This article cites research from the CDC analyzing that 1,789 cases reported to the CDC from January of 2001 through December of 2050 found that nearly 70% were unvaccinated. An astonishing 95% of the babies and toddlers that contracted the measles were unvaccinated. According to the website health.com, even the ones that don't die from the measles can get encephalitis, which is a deadly condition that involves swelling around the brain, which can cause seizures, deafness, permanent brain damage, and disability. Why would you subject your child to a preventable deadly disease? This article also mentions that 1 dose can prevent 93%, and 2 doses of the vaccine can prevent around 97% of the viral disease. Another reason to support vaccine is that 70% of children's deaths less than 5 years old are caused by infectious diseases, as reported in an article in September of 1999 for Supplement Pediatrics titled Vaccines in Children in Rich and Poor Countries. This article mentions that there are 1.1 million children under the age of 5 that die from measles. In addition, 600,000 deaths annually from hepatitis B, which can cause liver failure, liver cancer, or even cirrhosis, which is scarring of the liver. 50 deaths a year from Group A meningococcus is also reported. Group A meningococcus can cause a bloodstream infection called sepsis and can cause death in just a few hours, as reported by the CDC. The next supporting evidence of life-saving benefits of a vaccine is shown on a website called vaccines.procon.org under Vaccines History and Impact of 10 Diseases, showing the correlation between vaccines and the dramatic reduction in infectious diseases. The polio vaccine was introduced in 1955, and there was a reduction of death over 10 years from 1,043 deaths to only just a few. When I was a small child living in Weslaco, I had a babysitter named Kata. She unfortunately contracted polio, which resulted in her having permanent partial paralysis of her right arm and leg. She walked with a significant limp. If anyone has seen a person that has had a stroke and is partially paralyzed on one side, this is how she looked. As a child, I didn't know what had happened to her, but later my mother explained to me that she had had polio. She unfortunately contracted the disease before there was even a vaccine. The updated diphtheria vaccine, also known as the DTaP, was introduced in 1949. Within 12 years, the death rate was reduced by over 90%. The measles vaccine was introduced in 1964 and the updated MMR combination vaccine, which was introduced in 1971. The death rate went from 364 in 1963 to only 24 deaths reported in 1972. Lastly, let's talk about autism. Vaccines do not cause autism. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention published an article in October 2015 supporting that vaccines do not cause autism. The Marisol, a mercury-based preservative, has not been linked to autism. Between 1999 and 2001, the Marisol was removed from vaccines. Studies were conducted and determined that the Marisol was not harmful. There are some side effects associated with vaccines such as pain, swelling, redness where the shot was given, mild fever, chills, feeling tired, headaches, muscle and joint aches have also reported on website vaccinations.gov. The smallpox vaccination caused a significant scar where the vaccine was given. My sister had that scar and I used to tell her it was because she was so mean. Just kidding. But I am willing to take my chances on having any of these side effects associated with the vaccine over the death from not receiving the vaccines over any day of the week. Vaccines have been studied and shown to prevent millions of avoidable deaths. In my introduction, I mentioned that millions of lives could have been saved by receiving vaccinations. I have given you evidence to back up my statement that vaccines save lives and hopefully persuaded you to change your minds regarding the necessity of vaccinations. Bill Gates once stated, "Vaccines are the most cost-effective healthcare interventions there are. $1 spent on childhood vaccination not only saves a life, but greatly reduces spending on future healthcare." He also stated, "Vaccines save lives. Fear endangers them." It's a simple message parents need to keep hearing.